Creating an escape room using virtual reality is a lot of fun, but a lot of hard work. For those who are unfamiliar, an escape room is a puzzle game that requires the player to use their logic and reasoning skills to solve puzzles with the purpose of finding a way out of a locked room. Today's tech can be used to make games such as these a very immersive experience through mediums such as virtual reality. Through this project, we aimed to create a simple, one-room, single-player virtual reality escape game using the Unity 3D game engine. The room has several clues and objects that make up each puzzle that the player can use to escape the room. Virtual reality games allow the player to become fully immersed in their environment, and that allows them to be able to interact with virtual objects in a more realistic and hands-on way than has ever been possible before with other video game mediums. This game design allows players to intuitively interact with their virtual surroundings. During this project, we took inspiration from both real-world examples of escape room puzzle games as well as their virtual predecessors, with flash games such as Escape the Car and Escape the Telephone Booth. We set out to make our own version of a classic escape game, but with our own personalities and life experiences infused into it. After some brainstorming, we decided on the theme of our escape room: Escape the Meditation Studio. The concept behind this theme was taken largely from our own experiences of the COVID-19 pandemic. While sheltering in place in our homes, a lot of people turned to coping mechanisms, such as yoga and meditation. However, due to the strict restrictions at that time, those with an interest in these mediums were forced to turn to the internet for their information and make their own makeshift studios at home. And while this is a fantastic tool and resource for many people in different situations, we have also found that during quarantine, home became more of a cage than a sanctuary, leaving many people feeling trapped and disconnected from the outside world. Our game seeks to simulate that feeling of what was previously a safe and relaxing space turning into a burden, and subsequently the feeling of escape that many of us felt when sanctions were lifted and we were able to experience again the solace and peace of nature. So, once we had our theme stated, our next step was to create our initial sketch of the room. I first came up with 2 quick thumbnails of different room designs. The first was of a colorful and cozy bohemian-style relaxation space, and the other one was for a clean, modern, and minimalistic one. Eventually, the team decided to go with a minimalistic room. After this, our team member Tian created a more refined sketch of the room for us to refer to while we moved into our next phase of development, the puzzle creation. During this phase, we brainstormed and eventually sketched out all of the puzzles that we would be incorporating into our game. Once we had clarity on each of the puzzle elements, it was easier for us to develop the visual design and gather assets from the Unity store and other platforms, as well as make other elements from scratch with Unity Pro Builder and Autodesk Maya. Our game consists of 3 main puzzles: the shelf puzzle, the TV puzzle, and the yoga mat puzzle. In the shelf puzzle, the player must observe that the third window is the odd one out and move the final Buddha statue from the bookshelf to the window, completing the trio. When this is complete, the TV will turn on, displaying the first clue. The time displayed on the TV clock is different than the time on the room clock. Fun fact, the time on the room clock will actually match the time it is for you in real life when you play the game. But a player will have to interact with the clock in order to change the time to the one displayed in the clue. Once the clock is changed, 2 items will spawn on this corner table: the watering can and the sickle. Touching the plants on the shelf with the watering can will cause them to grow, and doing the same with the sickle will cause them to shrink. But what length should all the plants be? Well, to figure that out, the player will need to find the second clue. Notice the picture frame next to the plants that's blank? Well, we're going to keep our eye on that. If the player goes around the room and interacts with more objects in the room, they might notice that if you interact with the yoga mat, it folds over to reveal the lighter underneath it. But what do we need to light with the lighter? A candle, of course. When this candle in the corner is lit, and we circle back to this picture frame over here, we notice that the frame now has an illustration in it of some plants. However, the plants don't look quite like the ones we've got on this shelf. The picture is the wrong way. When turned right side up, the picture reveals the correct length for each plant. So now we must use our sickle and watering can to get the plants the right lengths. And when you do, out drops the key, which then of course you can use to unlock the door and escape the room, and out into this beautiful natural environment. These puzzles went through quite a few revisions. There were some that were cut or simplified along the way, allowing for potential updates and improvements in the future. Every puzzle started with a sketch, and then we tested them out on our primitive beta scene, and then eventually we translated it into our final version of the scene. And that is the end of our game. In the future, we're going to explore potentially publishing this game to be downloaded on various VR platforms, but also before we do that, we might include some new puzzles in this existing room, or even perhaps adding some more rooms and levels that explore similar themes that will enrich the message that we're trying to convey. Thanks for watching, and if you would like to contact any of us on the game team, our contact information is on screen now.